Good morning, DC. How you doing?
Doing good, Martin. How are you this morning?
Doing well, doing well. Got a lot to talk about. We have basketball, both Alabama and Auburn basketball. We have spring practice, so we're going to get right into it. Try to rapid fire as much as we can. And I'll start off with James has a question for you, DC.
I most certainly do, DC. Now, of course, when it comes to football, we talk about a lot Nick Saban's process ever since day one as far as identity and culture that he's established in the football program. That really caught my attention in Nate Oats' press conference that James Fletcher and myself, DC, were at last Thursday. And that's really something that when it comes to new coaches that I like to ask when it comes to what they want for the identity and the culture of their program. And Nate Oats talked about that a lot. So I just kind of give us an idea. You probably heard some of the comments as well from Thursday, DC, as far as just when it comes to maybe in layman's terms, what type of culture, what type of identity that Nate Oats wants and what you would like to see in this basketball program.
Well, I want to tell you, James, that's a great question. I was so impressed with Coach Oats at his press conference, and then subsequently I've had the opportunity to hear him speak, and I think it resonates every time he speaks and every time he talks anywhere about his program, what he wants to be, and that in layman's terms to me, he wants a team. He wants a family. He wants a team that's a family. He wants to show the players he cares about. He wants to invest in them, and he wants that family atmosphere to translate on the court so that they trust each other when they play. And by able to trust each other when they play, they get to play at a high speed level. And so I think he's going to get a lot of energy, enthusiasm. I think he brings a lot of that to the court, and his team is going to play on both ends of the court with high intensity, both high defense and high intensity on offense. And it's going to be running back and forth. I think speed on both ends of the court is really important. I think aggressive is another term that I would say. But you know what? You talking about the process. When he was talking, I was thinking, man, this is just like a mini copy clone of a Nick Saban program. And the way he was talking, everything he was saying, because he said he read every book he could get on Coach Saban. And if you look back at some of his Twitter posts, he's posted a lot of things about Saban quotes, Saban things, and I really believe that you're gonna see a team that's got a different change. That the identity is going to be, we're going to run and we're going to play hard. We're going to make the other team quit. And I think that's the identity of the Alabama team. There's going to be a factor there when you come play Alabama anymore. You won't be getting just another basketball team. You're going to get a team that's going to be on a mission. And I think that's where Alabama sets themselves apart in football as well.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, DC, when you look at it, is he has an identity he wants to create. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that we've kind of missed under Avery is we said we're going to be defense and we said buckle up, but we didn't really get a clear definition of what buckle up meant. And to me, he's kind of come in, and I made a joke about this. I said, now the Alabama fans, Nate Oats, the best hire in the last 20-plus years in the SEC, it just took Alabama fans 24 hours to realize that. And what I mean by that is he didn't win the press conference when his name was announced. But as you started to look into what he does and who he's been around and how he wants to play the game, it's like, okay, I don't know how he's going to do, but he seems to have everything that you want in a coach. And I'll say this. I'm looking at the Final Four teams, and this is what gets me excited. He's associated with Tom Izzo from Michigan State. And that hard nose, I'll get in your face if I need to. I'll correct you. I'll even raise my voice on national television and get in your stuff type of coach. That's where he kind of cut his teeth as a high school coach around Tom Izzo. And then I would look at the Auburn Tigers and go, man, they play great defense and they play fast. And then I look at Virginia and I go, they play great defense. And now they're a scoring team. Not just as much as everybody. I think they have the offensive firepower everyone else. They just run the clock down so their point total isn't as high, but they have some offensive weapons. And then you got Texas Tech that can score with you or can hold a Michigan to 44. And I'm going, man, this guy has some of everything that all four of these teams have. If we can get it all on the court, could Alabama have a special run in their future? Not immediately, but in their future.
Now, I'm excited that he wants to come in and establish his identity, and he realizes, hey, it's maybe not for everybody. I love his quote when he said, "Hey, we're going to come in, we're going to go after the players we want to keep, and then hey, maybe some of them need to stay in the portal, maybe some of them do need to transfer."
Yeah, that was
what he was saying was my philosophy, my way of playing, in for everybody. And he said, "Hey, I met with the team for about 15 minutes, so I'm going to go meet with them individually, and I'm going to lay down my expectations of what I think they need to do in order to be a part of this team." And so I think that's important. That's creating an identity early. That's Saban-esque, if you will.
Yeah, and if you go back and look, one of the early things, if you go back and read some comments from his early Buffalo teams, they all hated him because he ran them till they puked. He ran them till they wanted to quit until they saw it on the court. And that's one of my concerns with this team, with strength and conditioning, the way it's been one of the big flaws. Is that going to be – are they going to be able to overcome that hump? And so with that question asked, because to me, I look at Nick Saban and his process and his coaches and all of that, one of the most important hires he made is Scott Cochran. And how important in terms of looking at this Nate Oats thing, I know there's a lot on the court, but how important is getting the right strength coach with this program?
Well, I think it's important, and I think last night, I don't know if you saw it or not, but Nate Oats was speaking on the Hey Coach Show program, and he said, hey, he talked about his coaches, and someone asked about that, and he said, well, we've got 3 assistants now, and there's only going to be one of those, so we're going to keep one of them. But he did go on to say that he's already got the strength coach from Buffalo coming to be with him. So I think he's going to have somebody there that I'm sure he's already talked to Scott Cochran, somebody that Scott Cochran approved, but somebody that knows how to do it from scratch that he did in Buffalo, get the players in shape. I think he showed them yesterday when he had his first run-through with the team. He ran them so hard. They were he used the words they were gassed, they would give out. And I think he showed them that they weren't in the shape they needed to be to play that type of style of play that he wanted to play. So I'm looking forward to seeing this new strength coach come in from Buffalo and see what he can do with this team.
Have you heard a little bit about the new strength coach? He coached at VCU. I mean, he was at VCU. He brought him to Buffalo, but I think he's a 7-year military man. So yeah. I'm like, yeah, go see some discipline. I'm ready to see Alabama basketball players leave here looking like Tennessee players and LSU players. Our players come in and they look the same for the last few years. They look the same when they graduated as they did when they got here. So I'm excited. I didn't hear the article I didn't hear the talk last night. I did hear about the him running them to the point where they were ready to puke, and I think that's going to be a regular routine. And we may lose some, but you want guys who can play your style and to that point of Nick Saban, where you plug and play, and the guys who are here want to be here, and the ones who don't, you let them go, and then you fill back in. So.
I think one thing we heard last night, just the last thing I'll say about basketball was he has attention to detail, much like Coach Saban does. From what he talked about last night, he sat down for a couple hours yesterday morning before school started with Kyra Lewis going over film, showing him how he could fit into his offense here at Alabama. And I think that's an attention to detail that we may not have had in the past. And that gets lost on a lot of folks. A lot of things are done behind the scenes before you ever see them hit the floor. And those things that you do behind the scenes in months like April and May, and in the August in the August workouts and working in the gym by yourself, those are the things that translate on the win, late, and March. You know, you talk about Auburn basketball. One thing I heard Jared Harper say was, he stood there and he made 10 free throws. Would you love to have an Alabama player make 10 free throws in a row? Yes, everybody would that watches Alabama basketball. He said, he said, how can you concentrate and make those free throws with all that pressure? Well, because I do it every day in practice by myself. That means he goes to the gym by himself. He gets to the gym. He's bought in. And when he plays, when he shoots the free throw, it's just him in the rim. It's just him in the basket. So that's the kind of thing, that's kind of work that translates when you're way off the court. It translates on the wins on the court. I think that's something that Nate Oats is going to bring to this team.
Well, I think a lot of people missed the Nate Oats comment. We talk about how hard he said he's going to work the team. And as hard as he works the team, he said, I'm looking for guys who are going to the gym by themselves, because what we do with the way they limit basketball, you can't get good enough in college basketball just with the time the coaches spend with you. And to me, that was a huge, huge thing of he's already said he's going to work you harder than you've probably been worked in your life, but that's still not enough. And so, like I said, he's saying all the right things. He's pressing all the right buttons. And he has the results at Buffalo. He took a program to a level that they've not been to. And I love when he said we beat Arizona and Arizona State one random day in the summer, not on that day when we played them. And that's good to hear because we've heard Nick Saban say those same types of things. And so like I said, I think a little Tom Izzo in the type of get in your face coach, and that's what we've missed some with Avery. And then we've talked about the discipline and the running and the conditioning. Seems to be all of that. Now we just have to get the transfers and or the shooters from recruiting that can play that style. And I think he'll get it done. I don't know how much it will look like his basketball this first year, but we'll talk about that. Coming back on the other side, I do want to get your thoughts real quick on Auburn. Then we'll talk to you, DC, about this surprise player potentially coming out of spring, along with what else you heard from Alabama's first official spring. Talking with DC Capstone Report. You listen to the Blitz on your home for Alabama sports, tied to 102.9 and 100.9. All right, let's get back to DC. DC, we got a couple listeners that have questions for you. So let's get Super Joe has a question for you regarding Pete Golding. Super Joe, you're in with DC. What's on your mind?
Hey DC, how you feeling, partner?
Doing good. How you doing today, Super Joe?
What's your thought about DC? Okay, coaching him the defensive, doing the defensive coordinator and doing the inside linebackers. I heard there was a little complaints a little bit. Ron Fowler was talking about that on the game yesterday, and still talking about it's a little worried because that's why Alabama was getting exposed against Oklahoma and losing to Clemson was one of the reasons. Plus the bad coaching too, and I believe it was a lot of bad coaching. But what's your thought on Peter Goldman? How you think he's going to have it much better this year?
Well, I think it's a great thing to have Pete Golding as the defensive coordinator. I think last year's troubles consisted of trying to have two people doing it at the same time, and it didn't work out as well. So I think Pete Golding's going to do a great job. I think the reason he's working with the inside linebacker, that's where his strength lies. That's Coach Saban still works with the defensive backs because that's where his strength lies. But also being the defensive coordinator and working with the inside linebackers, it's the inside linebacker is going to be the one that's going to be calling the plays and making sure you get what the defense coordinator wants to be done on the field. And so I think it's really a good thing to have him working with the inside linebacker. So I think that's going to be one of our defensive coordinating is going to be one of our strengths this year. The inside linebacking core is going to be one of our weaknesses. So I look forward to seeing how he fills those positions that need to be filled and how he builds some depth there inside linebacker. So I think he's going to do a really good job this year.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Super Joe.
Appreciate it, y'all. It's all good.
All right. Hey, Gregory, you're in with DC. What's on your mind?
Hey, DC. Man, I got a question about defense also. Nick Saban said he was trying to work on the depth and we need some players to step up. I want to know, since last season, how our defense got exposed, is a bigger challenge this season to try to, get the players in the right spot where they need to be at, and plus work on our depth. And do you think our chance is very limited about, going to the playoff without being exposed about, so many problems we had on our defense?
Right,
well, I think one thing that you touched on there is very important to everybody to know. Last year we talked about our defense being young, but this year our defense is thin at some positions, and that is going to be a bigger challenge this year. And the reason is because we didn't build that depth last year. So I think building the depth defense is going to be a bigger challenge this year. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to be a bad defense. I don't think that at all. We're going to be a good defense. I think the challenge is going to come, are we going to be able to play all four quarters? And if injuries occur, as it has in the past, would the injuries hurt us more this year than it has in the past? So I think depth's going to be a problem, and I think that we're going to look to fill those. And I think we're working on it right now, and I think you'll see some people come out of this spring practice that maybe is going to help fill those positions.
Right. I got one more question for you. Who you think this season, what school might let us know where we at, in our schedule?
I think Texas A&M might be a good barometer to see where we are when the first time we get really good tested. I think that's going to be a good opportunity for us to see where we are.
All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Greg.
All right. Roll Tide, partner. All right.
Roll Tide. All right.
Thank you, Roll Tide.
Both of those good questions by Super Joe and Greg. DC, our new DC, Pete Golding, going to be able to focus, I think, a little bit more because he's not going to have anything other than inside linebackers and coordinating the defense. And I think Saban intentionally surrounded him, DC, with Kelly and Sunseri and the guys that know his system. But we'll get one quick question here, and then we'll come back and talk more about spring. When you look at this defense, one of the new coaches was our defensive line coach, but it seems like the first group has really bought into his style of play. We know what he was able to do over at Mississippi State with I say less talent, but that less talent is based on high school rankings. But he was able to turn those 3- and 4-star guys into first-round draft picks. What are you hearing about what he's been able to do, Coach Banks, in terms of the defensive line?
Well, I think the first team has already bought into him, and they indicate that was indication of that in the scrimmage. They did a really good job. I think it dropped off a little bit with our second-team players when they came in. But I think he's done a really good job. I think the players love him. I think Coach Saban loves him, loves what he's been able to accomplish. So I think it's just a matter of time. He's brand new, so it's just a matter of time of getting him his philosophy to gel with the players to buy into that. And I think it's a little bit different than last year. So I think when they do, if the other players gel into that, buy into that philosophy, I really believe it's going to be a big help for Alabama's defense, just defensive line play. I think it'll help shore up a very limited linebacking core in the middle with that good defensive line play. And I think they did that. He did that at Mississippi State when he first came in. I think he can do it at Alabama as well.
DC, we got Tim Redding saying, ask you, who do I think is going to be the backup quarterback? Early in the spring, we did hear that Talia got some reps. I think he said both got reps, but it was obvious that Talia got more reps with the twos than Tyson, based on just the way Saban said it. Can Mac Jones hold off the surging Talia, especially since we just read that Tua is spending late nights, 12:30, 1 o'clock at night, working with Talia on what he saw in the scrimmage?
Well, I think Mac Jones clearly is entrenched to the second player off the bench right now. Coach Davis made that clear when he spoke to any different groups. But coming out of the scrimmage, the people I know that were there that gave me reports said that Mac Jones clearly the second best quarterback on the field, and that Talia had opportunities with the team with the twos, and made some good throws, but made some freshman mistakes as well. So I think that it's clearly Tua number one, Mac Jones number two, and then it's left to be seen who's going to be a third quarterback at this point.
Well, I guess the question becomes: does the Bama Nation feel comfortable that Mac Jones is the number two guy? Because I'm telling you, that's the question.
That's the question. But I think from everybody I've heard in the scrimmage that you can really tell a difference in him this year that from last year. He obviously had a good grasp of the offense, knew how to get everybody in the right positions, made some really good throws, had some good passes, made a couple of mistakes, but those he probably shouldn't have thrown in the scrimmage. But overall, I think everybody said he had a good performance overall in the scrimmage.
And that's what Tua said. Tua said the biggest difference in Mac Jones this year and last year is confidence. So that's good. Tua also gave us a little insight into what they're working on in terms of under Sark. He said, with Coach Sark is really full field progression reads. Last year under Mike Locksley, we worked more on RPO, run pass options, and we had that opportunity to perfect it. Now we're trying to perfect full progression reads, so reading the entire field. When you hear that in terms of Alabama, do you think this Tua becomes a more dangerous weapon if we move away from the RPO to the full progression read, or a mix of the two?
Well, I think he's. I think what he's saying there is what everybody I've heard is reporting back to me is that the offense under Sarkisian is a more slowed down type offense, wherein there's more progression reads across the field, and taking advantage of what the defense gives you. And I think that's getting back to a little bit more of what you used to see in Alabama. So I think if Tua can master that, the sky's the limit as to how he can pick apart. The people I had eyes on him at the scrimmage told me that it's hard to believe that you thought he could pass better, but it looked like the game had slowed down for him. He was putting balls in tight spots and just dropping dimes, extending the defense all day long. And, of course, it doesn't hurt when you got the best wide receiving corps in the nation as well.
Yeah, and when you speak of that, John Mechie reportedly coming out with 2 touchdowns from the scrimmage and supposedly got a few reps with the first team. That has to speak highly of that young man's talent as well.
Most definitely. He was one of the young guys that jumped off the page at me. Not only that, but he bought into this mentality of the next man up. He took what Coach Saban said: you come in, do your job, and make yourself available. You will have opportunity to play. And of course, we saw that last year with Jalen Waddle, and we see it this year with John Mechie. Now, Henry Ruggs was not there, so he got a lot of those reps that Henry Ruggs would have gotten. But that's taking advantage of your opportunity right there and being able to do it when it's time for you to do it, and he did. He showed out in that scrimmage. But you know what? Another thing, we talk about how great the wide receivers are. Two of my people who reported back to me said this, and they said it in almost the exact same way. We thought Jalen Waddle jumped off the page last year, but he has upped his game. He is in a different gear this year, and it'll be so exciting to see him go on one-on-one against some of these defensive teams we're going to play on those slants. He is if you could say a guy is better than what he was last year, Jalen Waddle is better than what he was last year.
Jalen Waddle with another gear would be scary for any defensive back. So that's great to hear. Speaking of jumping off the page or taking advantage of an opportunity, there was one name that most Alabama fans, when you mentioned it to me, I was like, who? What's his name? And you had to spell it to me so I could go look it up. But a name that you had from several people that were at the scrimmage that you spoke with, Giles Amos. Who is Giles Amos, and what did he do that had people reporting back?
Well, I think it's important. I had to go look it up. I didn't know who he was. Freshman. I mean, he's a senior. Been here since he's a freshman. Worked through the program as a walk-on, and it's just another story of somebody taking advantage of an opportunity to give them. Right now, Alabama is very thin in the tight end position. Those that have left. And with Kendrick James going to be lost at least for the first 4 games of the season, they're looking for people to play in that position. And, the tight end position is very important to Alabama, both blocking and pass catching. And I think what's happened is Giles Amos has been here so long, knows the scheme, knows what Coach Saban is wanting, and he's performing in practices, and he's given his opportunity because of the lack of depth there. Now, I don't know if he's going to come in and be that guy, but I know, based on his performance in the scrimmage, he's jumped off the page at a couple of folks because of his physique he's built over the last 4 to 5 years, and because of his blocking. When he came in and played, the blocking did not go off, did not drop off, and he was able to catch some passes and caught a touchdown pass against the first-team defense. So I think that was impressive. Anytime you see a young man who's been here 4 or 5 years in the program as a walk-on, he's paid his dues and giving him an opportunity to play even in this first scrimmage and hear his name. And I not only heard his name from people who I saw had watching the scrimmage, I watched Twitter, and his name came up on a couple of guys that were walk-ons before at Alabama saying, hey, we told you about this guy. Watch this guy. So he's obviously turned some heads in practice before as a walk-on.
Well, we'll keep our eyes out for Giles Amos. That's a need position from the need standpoint in depth, but also a need position, I think, in terms of what Sarkisian wants to accomplish from an offensive standpoint. Speaking with DC Capstone Report, DC, what's your major takeaways from this scrimmage?
I heard someone tell me the Yabi Anoba has really upped his game. He's passion is there. His athleticism, quick off the ball, really beat our first-team offensive tackles that are really great to the quarterback several times. Did a great job. I think Jerome Ford had a great great scrimmage and upped his game. Darius Townsend catching the ball out of the backfield looked like a great cog in the offense. By far, overall, the offense is ahead of the defense. We're definitely weak at inside linebacker. In the defensive side of the ball, one name to watch is Scooby Carter. I think he held his own against our great wide receivers. And one disappointing thing was that although a good spin was put on it by Coach Saban, everyone I talked to was the kicking game, punting and kicking field goals, just did not look good at all the first scrimmage.
All right, one last quick question for you, DC, in 30 seconds. What do you think about a guard that's 340 pounds and the other guard is 360 pounds? You think that means we're going to try to run the ball?
I think we're going to run the ball. Out of this scrimmage, our running game really looked good. Najee Harris, Brian Robinson, and Jerome Ford all did really good. And Jerome Ford had some nice catches out of the backfield as well.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see that thunder and lightning from Sarkisian. Hey, that's David Cott 50 at David Cott 50 is where you can find him on Twitter. DC Capstone Report can be found at dccapstonereport.com. DC, when are you going to get that podcast up this week?
It'll be up tonight. We'll review the first scrimmage and look forward to as they work toward the next scrimmage in A-Day.
All right. That's DC Capstone Report. Thanks, DC. We'll catch up with you next Tuesday.
Thanks, Martin. Roll Tide.